1945, the territories in Germany were divided into 4 Allied occupation zones. As decided by the leaders of the Allied powers, the Soviet Union took the eastern half of Germany, while Great Britain, the US, and France took the western half. Berlin was about 100 miles from the western border, smack dab in the eastern or Soviet side of the country. Despite this, the city was also divided into sectors in June 1945, with the Allies again taking the western half of the city itself and the Soviets taking the eastern half. The Soviets did not like the capitalist city of West Berlin, located in eastern Germany, so they started taking steps to drive out West Berlin and its capitalist agenda from the region. First, they tried to starve them out of the city by setting up a blockade of West Berlin. However, the Allies airdropped in supplies to the residents, over 2.3 million tons of food and other supplies to be exact, delivered for over a year during Operation Berlin Airlift. In 1949, the Soviet blockade was finally stopped. The waters were calm again until 1958. Over the previous decade, around 3 million refugees and defectors, including skilled workers such as engineers, teachers, and doctors, crossed over to West Berlin from the east. This humiliated the Soviets. On August 13, 1961, the Soviet premier decided it was best to close the border by constructing a concrete block wall with barbed wire, officially dividing East and West. In this way, East Germany could keep out the fascists from the West and maintain their socialist state. In order to get around the wall, you had to go through one of the 3 checkpoints, at which East German soldiers screened travelers, diplomats, and other officials. The wall was later fortified, made much higher and sturdier, and on the East German side, a gauntlet-type area served to prevent any more defectors from crossing via floodlights, tripwire traps, and dogs. This wall stood from 1961 to 1989, 28 years. On November 9th of 1989, the border was opened. People were now free to cross again from east to west and vice versa. The live coverage of those crowds that swarmed the wall with hammers and picks to tear down this wall, as President Ronald Reagan so famously put it, was scary and exhilarating at once. Cranes and bulldozers did the rest. All of this fascinating footage was caught on live TV. The ensuing celebration that occurred as the floodgates were opened was called the greatest street party in the history of the world by one journalist. Though the event was celebratory, it was also scary, as no one knew what the future held in Germany. As it turns out, a united Germany would be a leader in the 21st century and one of the strongest economies in Europe. A YouTuber who goes by the one and only Spud Bud has been hearing scary noises outside of his house every night, strange and mysterious sounds coming from the sky. It always seems to happen between 4 and 5 in the morning when it's still dark outside. Listen to this and tell me what you would do if you were woken up by this noise. It's hard to tell if the sky sounds are coming from an animal or a machine, or perhaps even some living mixture of both. Whatever it is, it sounds tremendously large and about to crush his house. On Thursday, after 4 days of scary noises, the one and only Spud records the creepiest video of all. This is when it sounds less mechanical and more like a creature, but tell me what you think it is. A low rumble pierces the sky with enough force to make the floorboards of his house creak. One thing that makes me think this is real is how he never leaves his home to go outside. Instead, he paces around his house nervously hoping that the sound will go away. And it looks like a realistic reaction. Well, most people believe this is real. One person said they analyzed the clip and found it was edited. They said they would link the sound file but never did, so their claims have not been supported. Let me know if you have ever heard this noise from any movies or other popular media. Maybe together we can figure this one out. There's nothing scarier than a ghost who's out of his mind. Posted to the Ghosts subreddit, Random Doge 47 explains, went to the Heartwood Insane Asylum in the UK and captured something. The mysterious video shows the creepy remains of the asylum, aged with decay. All of the windows are broken out, leaving gaping empty black holes, except for one window. Someone is standing in the top left window of the asylum, an asylum that's locked up tight.
Oh my, somebody's head's popping at the top. So it is. Oh my, I need to go. I get that in video. I just get that in video.
The Redditor writes that the lower windows are too high to climb into, and the upper floors are collapsed. So what is this figure? And how did it manage to get in? And if the floor really is collapsed, is it just hovering there? Some in the comments think it's an owl, others think it's a person experiencing homelessness, but most agree that it's something from which to flee, with Key Razmataz 1572 writing, "Feet don't fail me now." Agreed. Time to hoof it out of there. Rando Nautica can sure be random, but then again it's eerily spot on. Published to YouTube in January of 2021, Chelsea Luna writes, "This is my first time trying Rando Nautica and I was so excited to have my friends Omar from Omar Gosh TV, James from The Fam, and Carlos from Carlos The Fam joining me on this adventure, and just like that the adventure begins. They're driving along when something hits the back of their car."
What was that? What was that? Bro, there's something just hit the back of the car.
It sounds like a rock or a pebble. They stop to see if something is back there, but they come up short. In the distance, something is heard. It sounds like coyotes or something.
Is that a coyote?
Stop.
Whatever it is scares the group, and they hurry to get in the car and lock the doors. Later, as they're driving by a bunch of tires, a strange growl is heard.
Monster.
What is that?
What? No. You heard something?
It sounds like a growl.
Yeah, it sounded like a growl.
They continue on. A strange sound effect that the crew missed is heard in the background. It almost sounds like a disembodied voice is screaming, and it says, "You."
Ow.
Oh, I want to get it. Bro, you even said at the last look.
At one point, they're taken to the statue of an angel defeating a demon. Carlos says he was thinking about an angel, so this is a bit freaky that the app drew them here. Does this creepy adventure make you want to never use Rando Nautica again? Because that's definitely the case for me. A paranormal YouTube channel known as Exploring Darkness goes on a two-person investigation that leaves them, in their words,
really an exploring video.
What in the
What
world?
I said we're gonna call this an exploring video. Now I'm getting scared. Dude,
knowing what true evil feels like by the time they're through.
yeah, there's
Is
gotta
someone
be
in
somebody
here?
in here concerning just the roof. Nope.
On reviewing the video evidence, the research team sees a hooded figure at 3 minutes 51 seconds. Paranormal or not, there's no doubt that this is the person responsible for making all of the noise. Freaky, right? This bizarre home CCTV video reveals a scary moment when a mysterious shadow figure creeps across someone's front yard, moving down into the right and running along the length of their fence. I guess it could be a bug flying by, but the way it comes from around the house and continues through the yard is the same path a person would take on foot. The person who took this video thinks it's probably a shadow figure, and after reviewing the paranormal evidence, I believe him. We're gonna analyze some strange things on this list, but this is perhaps the clearest visually. This YouTuber published 3 videos of this sighting in April of 2014 writing, Original raw footage found of the Turkey UFO seen by dozens of residents between 2007 and 2009. The clip is perhaps one of the clearest I've seen in recent memory. Its shape is unlike that of any man-made air vehicle, as are its lights, which slant along the wings of the aircraft. The clip captures a close-up as well as footage of the object at a distance. It's certainly a strange sight in the sky over Turkey, with some in the YouTube comments calling it the real thing, and one of the most important captures ever. Most in the comments rave at the quality of the image, being that most UFO captures are blurry, low-quality footage. With nearly 6 minutes in this video clip, and 2 other clips to follow, we're hard put to explain what this could be but the real thing. Visit Louisiana and you might just run into a gator or 2, or maybe 1,000. Published in January of 2011, Marvin Carter writes, "This is something you just don't see every day." Carter says this video was sent to him from the mouth of the Mississippi by one of his friends. What you're about to see will make your skin crawl. At first, the river looks normal with dozens of rocks jutting out of it, but when the camera zooms in, you realize those aren't rocks. Then, even more horrifyingly, this little speedboat starts its journey through the sea of alligators. They're all moving about, but the good news is, it looks like they're just trying to get out of the way, not start trouble. While many in the comments agree that this is terrifying, most also suggest that gators generally don't mess with you. Still, this scary video desperately needs an explanation, and commenter Canoeing the Edge of the World seems to have one. He writes, "For some reason, alligators just decide every once in a while to have a little get-together, and they bring the whole family. I think I'll skip this reunion." Some run away from ghosts, others give chase. Posted to the very spooky video subreddit, this mysterious figure appeared on some railroad tracks, and these kids decided to follow it. In the scary video, the figure in white moves, swaying up ahead. As it tries to escape, the group of children that are following it, they get very close, but it moves faster along. They cross a bridge, but the figure still keeps ahead of them. At some point, many of the kids start crying, and the figure moves off the tracks and down a hill, where it vanishes in the darkness. Many in the comments are saying even if the figure isn't a ghost, it is creepy. And they don't trust it. Do you? I certainly don't. This YouTuber works security at a building that's so haunted, he can't even get past to the elevator without scary stuff happening. It's gotten to the point where he records anywhere he goes because the place is seriously that haunted by paranormal poltergeist activity everywhere. The building has a nice gym room, for example, but it seems the equipment is always in use one way or another. Weird things are always caught on camera moving around on their own when he's out of arm's length.
Para darles una sorpresa ahora cuando vengan, que no saben que estoy aquí. ¡Hostias!
But it is perhaps this haunted playroom area that sees the most paranormal activity of all. So that's a lot of freaky stuff to have happened, but he's been making videos for years, and I've saved the absolute scariest video for last. You're not going to believe this one because it's that beyond creepy. He lives alone and hears the voices of a family coming from his room.
Vamos a ver. ¿Que se han escuchado ruidos aquí estos días?
When he calls into the darkness, he is answered by the shadow person sighting. The dark outline of a shadow moving in the small amounts of light coming through a crack in the door.
Hostia, la luz.
There's no doubt that somebody was in there with him, but was it planned, or was it a real ghost sighting caught on video? I think when you look at all of the paranormal video evidence caught on tape, you'll conclude that this place is really haunted. He could be faking it, but I don't really see how. Also, with barely any views on his videos, I don't see why he would continue for years on end, unless it was really happening to him. This grainy cell phone video comes from the SNDT Women's University in Mumbai, India. They are walking down a long hall filled with various classroom conversations when they see another student coming the opposite way. Well, I guess they didn't technically see them, since it was only a pair of shoes with nobody attached. Tell me, am I losing my mind? Or if this really is a ghost student going to class? This cat is playfully smacking around a Brillo pad when it stops to look straight up, ears back completely frozen, almost as if someone invisible is standing over it. Next, an orb floats upwards and makes it jump straight into the air. After a while, the house pet regains interest in its toy, only to stop and look around again, slightly bewildered. It looks at its owner briefly and then follows the orb with its head in a swooping motion. Possibly the very same orb as before. There's no doubt that the cat sees something out of the ordinary as it tracks the orb perfectly. Both times it completely loses interest in the toy and seems somewhat alarmed over an unseen presence. I guess there could be some other explanation, but if I was alone and saw all of this going on, I would definitely question if my house was haunted. Tim Morozov, or Tim Frost in English, is a Russian YouTuber who goes into places that spirits want him to stay out of. This time he has his eyes on an entire village that's been evacuated due to the presence of something mysterious, something neither you nor I can see. He picks the creepiest, most haunted looking cabin of them all, and unlike most ghost hunters, sets up high quality lighting to catch every last detail. It isn't long before Tim Frost thinks he sees a mist floating before his very eyes, but to be honest, I don't see anything.
Por.
That mirror, on the other hand, is hard to miss. Tim takes it off the wall and is busy inspecting it with what sounds like beads falling off a necklace hit the floor from behind. If this is fake, then someone must have climbed the cabin and poured something onto the roof to create this sound, but that still doesn't explain what happens next. A ghost brushes by and hits the microphone of his camera at 12 minutes and 3 seconds. The mic moves by itself and everything, or maybe Tim's just lightly shaking it to create the illusion of movement. Then his light short circuits, unless, that is, he hits the strobe effect and then turns it off himself. Tim Frost knows that he has to explore the entire cabin, and that includes the basement. He takes the freaky mirror down there with him and starts snapping pictures with an old Polaroid camera for evidence. That's when a brick falls near him. There's a good chance he placed it there himself, because this ledge is an odd place for a brick to just so happen to be perched upon. But right as I say, I notice an orb fly over the brick right as it falls. So now I'm back to thinking it could be real and paranormal. Tim Frost unfortunately gets chased out by locals before he can gather much more evidence. He returns on a different day and selects another cabin. This one happens to still have power, which is odd, but I guess the electrical company could have made a mistake and not switched it off yet. Anyway, at 3 minutes and 45 seconds, he records a strange flickering white light against the wall. It stays with him for more than a minute, but then, at 6 minutes and 10 seconds, it goes away, almost like it goes into the next room, and then this happens.
Блин, что-то голова раскалывается, на самом деле. На спичке вроде все в порядке.
Suddenly, the lights go out and Tim finds himself alone in the dark, or so he thinks.
Как упали тарелки.
He uses an EMF meter to track something moving around with him, and when he hones in on its exact position, his lights start messing up. Also, an eerie mist is visible around his flashlight, but maybe it's dust. He follows the EMF meter up to an attic. His flashlight is flickering badly now, even though it was a solid beam only minutes before. What he hears next is not fake in my opinion. Too light to be a person, and yet all too near. In fact, it sounded like it was this door. But when he looks inside for himself, nothing is there. And get this, the flashlight of his camera is not the last of his lighting problems that night. When he set up his professional studio lights that he's never had a problem with before, they can't seem to stay on either. I would say that this was from faulty wiring with the cabin, but I think this light is running on its own battery and isn't plugged in at all. Ghostly girls are enough to scare a pack of boys at night. Published by L. Kevin in November of 2017, the title in Spanish reads, "A ghost girl gets out in Mexico's Pantheon." The video begins with a bunch of guys running off and shining a flashlight towards some trees. It's unclear what they've seen there, but they start shouting in Spanish over towards that area. One of them carries a large stick, likely as protection to use against whatever they saw there. As they continue to shout, the camera moves to one of the guys who's sitting on the ground, and when it turns back up again to the spot, there's a shadowy figure on the wall of the building. It appears to be a long-haired girl with her head tilted. They start walking away down a side road. Then one of them starts shouting and they all start running. Although it's unclear what they saw, whatever it was must have been frightening enough to hop a fence to escape. As E. Mendez in the video's comments wrote, "The one who searches finds." These boys found what they were looking for. I bet they won't dare search again. This faded family footage goes from heartwarming to horrifying when you realize what this father has done to become a wanted man with a $100,000 reward on his head. According to the FBI, this man extinguished his entire family, wife included, and then created a gas leak in the home. He lit a candle and the house went up in an instant to cover his tracks. This was back in 2001 and no traces of him have been uncovered. He is still on the top 10 most wanted list just in case. You don't want this guy popping up in your next selfie. Posted to the Ghosts subreddit, Princess Lena 87 explains that there was no one else in the room when this video was recorded, except apparently this insane red face who popped up behind them. The clip shows two friends recording a selfie video, laughing and having fun. As the video pans right, nothing is behind them, but when it pans left again, a slimy red figure appears over their shoulders. Lena shares this screenshot in the comments. While some think it's Snape, others suggest something not from a Harry Potter book, and rather an entity that is quite nefarious. Redditor Analytical Amy writes, it may just be some freakish weirdness, but was there ever a fire close by or in that house over the years? Later saying that it looks like someone who was in the home during something like this. Whether you think this is the case or not, one piece of advice, don't turn around. I believe this video is 100% real, and that only makes it all the more scarier. This intriguing footage was captured on a dash cam at around 7 p.m. Watch closely. As the car turns around, keep your eye on the front of the white van up ahead. Do you see that dark figure move behind it? Now watch the second floor stairway window as the driver pulls forward. Something is clearly peeking out at him. The shadow figure disappears as the car reverses, and you don't see it again. The strangest part was that during this camera freeze in the beginning, the YouTuber says he caught a glimpse of the shadow speed toward the stairway. This is actually what led him to check his camera footage. Is the shadow figure in both spots the same lurking entity? I think it just might be, and this shadow seems to move at the speed of light. A home security camera caught this scary sight in Corvina. Posted by Ruby Gonzalez in December of 2018, Ruby writes, 2 individuals tried to enter a home. One knocked on the door and called out the resident's first name several times. The family was home at the time. You can see one of the men approach with his hood up and a kerchief covering his mouth, wearing a backpack. He knocks on the door, waiting with his head down, likely aware of where the security camera is located. A second dude also approaches, dressed in the same fashion. He's carrying a crowbar. They knock a second and third time, alerting a small dog inside. When a car passes, they both turn to look down the street and ensure there are no witnesses. He knocks several more times, saying, "Come on, bro." But the second dude eventually taps him on the arm, indicating it's time to give up and leave, which thankfully they do. Whatever they came for, they left empty-handed. Thank you so much for getting me to 30,000 subscribers here on my Clips channel. If you want to support, please press that subscribe button. Let's get to 40,000 subscribers next. Thank you.